first. First. But you were second. Canadian Führer beat you again. Quickest on the draw overall, I would say, is Canadian Führer. In the game of firsts, he's got the most firsts. It's just the truth. Read them and weep. Salutations. Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Good day, mate. So I'm doing something kind of interesting. It's like a little experiment, I guess, that I'm doing. So Amelia's never seen the Lord of the Rings movies, and I've been wanting to rewatch the Lord of the Rings movies, and so I threw it out there as an option the other day. But then I realized that like the extended director's cuts of these are like 4-hour films. And so I was like, man, I wonder if these movies could be chopped up into episodes. Like they did for The Hateful Eight. You know how they did some of you may not know, but like Tarantino's movie, The Hateful Eight, they released it episodically or cut it up into episodes, like parts 1, 2, 3. Even though it was really, you can still see it all as one. It was also cut up episodically, and it works really well like that. And I started thinking about it, because like I almost stopped and went like, let's pick something else, because like 4 fucking hours, I didn't want to sit there for 4 hours. Nor did I want her introduction to the Lord of the Rings to be her being bored out of her mind for 4 hours because she doesn't know what's going on and shit. Or because she's tuned out because it's fucking overlong, and all the little extra things that they've added in the director's cut and stuff like that I appreciate, she is just going to be dragging to her, right? And then I was like, what if we watched it in chunks? Like, what if we like just stopped after the resolve of a big plot point? Like, so that's what we've been doing. We're still not quite through the Fellowship yet, but we've been watching it in like between 30 and 45-minute chunks. So like the first chunk that we watched was, the Hobbits getting to Bree. And then the second chunk that we watched was the Hobbits getting to, fucking Lothlorien and the House of Elrond. And then we watched from there right up until they go into the Mines of Moria, like right until they enter. And then today, like we sat down and ate lunch together, and we watched the Mines of Moria like it was an episode. And we're like over halfway through the film now, and I'm like, this is working. So I'm wondering if there are other movies that would benefit from this type of shit, because it's like, it feels like we're watching a TV show, because that's how we watch TV shows. Amelia and I, we will binge a show like 2 or 3 episodes or something, but neither one of us can sit and watch TV for long. And so what we typically do is we'll sit down, we'll watch an episode or two, and then we, next time we come back to it, we pick it up. And the movie really works that way. I'm not even joking. And it's just like I'm just roughly doing it based on my knowledge of the movies. And, we watch 30 minutes or something, and I know that we're coming to the resolve of a plot point. Boom. And I'm like, I'm going to pause it here. We go smoke, and I'm like, you want to keep watching? Or she's like, no, let's wait. And so like we've chunked it up over the course of 3 days. And we'll probably got one more episode before the end, maybe 2, but I would say 1 probably. And then we'll be moving on to the 2 Towers, and I'm just like, man, there's something to this. Taking these longer films or these trilogies of films and chunking them up into episode length. Like if you'd have asked me about this like a year ago, I would have told you, fuck no. Who would want to do that? But I'm telling you, like watching the Hateful Eight extended cut that was released episodically changed my whole fucking mind on that shit. These longer movies, they almost benefit from it. No. I'm with you, Angry Gamer Show. Like in a vacuum or with a day that I have more time and stuff, or a day I wasn't feeling like I normally do. I'd sit down and watch a 4-hour movie, and I've done it before. I've watched all of the extended cut films, in a day. I did the marathon with my friend one time. This was before I was even on, well, not on YouTube, but before I was on DP. And me and a friend of mine sat down, and we just like, well, we're dedicating a day to the Lord of the Rings, and it was fun. Yeah, 2 hours every evening in 6 parts would probably work. See, we're kind of like in this mode of 1 hour, like 45-minute to an hour long episodes, and that's been how this is going, kind of. Like some of them have been shorter, but it's great that way because you can just kind of choose, like, there's all these different little plot arcs, especially in a long epic like Lord of the Rings, and you can just kind of choose, like, well, that's an episode. Well, that's an episode. Well, that's an episode. Well, that's an episode. You know what I mean? It's pretty neat. Like I've and this is really, like I said, it's my mind has changed on this since I started watching TV shows episodically a lot more. Does it work with any other movie series though? Like 3 long movies all being good in a trilogy is rare. That's true. I don't think it necessarily has to be 3 long movies. What about like just 1 long movie? That's what they did for the Hateful Eight. So the Hateful Eight was going to be like a 4-hour long movie with the extended cut edition or whatever it was, 3 hour and change. And they cut it up into 3 episodes, about an hour apiece or so, a little over an hour apiece. And it worked, right? So like longer movies like 2001 A Space Odyssey is a longer film that could definitely be broken up episodically. Barry Lyndon is almost broken up that way as a narrative choice. So that's another Kubrick film that could, I'm not saying that this is the preferred way to do it. I'm just saying this could be done to it. Barry Lyndon's like a 3-hour and change long film, and it's already broken up into these chapters, and so each chapter is an episode. Braveheart, another good example. Epics tend to epic biopics and epic war films and stuff like that tend to be better for this. Like, I don't think a horror movie would work all that well, broken up like this. Even if there was a long... And horror movies tend to be shorter anyway. Horror is like kind of a get in, get out. Not that there aren't longer horror films, but as a rule, horror movies tend to be in that, like, 2 hours is pretty long for a horror film category. Mandy's not a horror film, though. Mandy's a fantasy movie. It's got horror elements to it, but so does The Lord of the Rings. The Snyder cut is a lot better cut up into parts. This is really interesting to me. Do you guys find this interesting? The idea of serializing film. I feel like there's something here that's gonna make somebody a lot of money. That's why I think I'm interested in it. Because, like, seeing the not the Grateful Eight, the Hateful Eight, the Grateful Eight, that'd be a funny sequel. The Hateful Eight cut up into episodes, and then just kind of casually doing it with the Lord of the Rings, it works. It actually genuinely works. But it's like, in this society, who capitalizes on it, right? What's the way to capitalize on this? Is it going to be some kind of app that does this for you, that works in tandem with your other apps to chop up movies or to give you notifications when to press stop to watch movies in a serialized way? Well, see, that's different though, Ray Gunner. It's different. I understand what you're saying. They're taking their movie franchises and moving them into TV shows, and I agree. Like, it is pertinent. I'm not saying it's not related that you bring it up, but it's different. The Mandalorian was conceived of as a serialized TV show, right? Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was conceived of as a serialized TV show. So the tie-ins with the movies are cool, but that's no first either. So I'm talking about taking films that are longer, that are meant to be watched in one go, and then breaking them up for people like me who, like I get antsy sitting down and watching a fucking 4 hour long movie. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like I will do it, and I enjoy a lot of longer films, but holy shit, like it lets you but there's only certain movies that I feel like really fit, like really sweeping long form epics, like The Godfather 1 and 2 would be great done like this. And then in fact I feel like they almost are. The Godfather 1 and 2 feel like one film to me. And the break between them is the episode break, right? But they're also long films that I feel have narrative arcs that could be further broken into. See, this is almost something that they were doing back when I was a kid. They would do this when I was a kid on TV with longer movies. Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion of, right? Not like they would take a movie, cut it for film, and then show it in parts. Maybe that's why I'm so attracted to the idea of it. Maybe that's why the idea of it is so interesting to me. Serializing film. The original It. Yeah, well, but that was designed, once again, the original It was designed as a mini series. It was designed episodically. So it wasn't cut up. It was designed to be released. This is episode 1, this is episode 2, this is episode 3, this is episode 4. So that's different. It was written from the jump as a serialized TV show. That was more like, if you watch the It TV show, it's more like 3 movies in one. Like the It original film with Tim Curry as Pennywise. So yeah, that came out that way. It was meant that way. It was written that way. Yeah. I love episodic horror too, and that's something that just is popping into my mind over and over again. Like my mind wants me to make a connection with it. I've been recently watching in my free time as I'm working on other things on the computer and shit. Tales from the Crypt. I love that show, and I just love episodic horror in general. I love how compact and brief and to the point that the stories have to be when you only have half an hour or an hour to tell them. You know what I mean? I love how in episodic horror you have to trim all the fat off of a script. You know what I mean? You don't get as much time for character development, so you've got to figure out a way to tell the tale of these characters and to show what these show not tell, because you don't have all this fucking script length to do all this long form character development shit. So you've got to drop us right into the action. You got to tell us who these people are. You've got to show us the conflict. You got to show us the rising action, descending action, and the resolution, all within half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour. Awesome, right? So there's something about the economy of that type of content that appeals to me. And watching The Lord of the Rings like that is way different. It really is. It's like a whole different vibe almost. I've seen these movies probably like 5 or 6 times at least a piece before, and I'm talking extended editions alone. You take the pre-extended editions into account, that's way longer, way more times than that. I've never watched them like this. And it gives me and Amelia a chance to talk about what happened like we do after episodes of TV shows. It's really interesting. I like it. I don't know if I have any more to say about it, but it's just, I don't know, it's on my mind today. Or at least it was when I started this. Yeah, the second Lord of the Rings film is not as long. I don't like what they did with The Hobbit. They took a one-sit movie and stretched it into some bullshit. Yes, they did, Jareth. Yes, they did. It's so weird. I was explaining it to Amelia because she has read The Hobbit, or rather had The Hobbit read to her when she was a little girl, and she remembers it. And so she asked me questions as The Lord of the Rings is going on, like, "Oh, it's the ring. Oh, okay, that's when Bilbo found the ring. Okay, oh yeah, it's his." Yeah. She remembers all the little like sting and the mithril shirt and all that shit where that he got. You know what I mean? She remembers all that little plot points that are sprinkled throughout the Lord of the Rings, which is another thing that makes the movie so brilliant, is that it's so jam packed with fan service from The Hobbit. You know what I mean? So they take this movie, right? Now, each one of these Lord of the Rings books, I don't know how long they are. The first one is huge. I'd say it's probably like 800 pages or more. Second one is shorter. The Two Towers are the shortest of the three. And The Return of the King is the fattest of them all, I think, or at least equal in fatness to the fucking. So that's a long tome, right? And they chopped it up into three movies, and they had to cut stuff and had to make economy decisions when it came to how much they showed of things or how fast things played out, right? And it came out really good. They were able to do it. And then they take one book that's like half the size of the smallest book in the Lord of the Rings trilogies, The Hobbit. The Hobbit is a book that you can read in like an evening if you're a fast reader. You start reading it at like fucking 5 in the afternoon, and by the time you want to go to bed, you're fucking finishing The Hobbit if you're a fast reader. It's a quick book. It's like that thick, you know? And you just flip through it and you're done. They fucking stretched that shit out. They took that book and turned it into 3 films. What? That decision alone, like, boggles my mind. Like, if they wanted to do this right, in my opinion, and this was a missed opportunity, they should have released The Hobbit first. And they could have called it Lord of the Rings. Because I know that's why the decision was made. Because more people know Lord of the Rings than The Hobbit. It's more identifiable. So they could have called it Lord of the Rings, Episode 1, The Hobbit. Right? And have it be one movie of the same length as the rest of the Lord of the Rings that introduces Bilbo Baggins. Think about it. The original Bilbo character would have been younger and young enough for them to make it believable. Missed opportunity. Get Gandalf cast, get him in there, start introducing this world and these characters. One movie dedicated to the Hobbit and his journey. And then coming soon, Lord of the Rings, Episode 2, The Fellowship of the Ring. Coming, summer 2006. Yeah, quadrilogy, yeah. Why not? That's what the books are. The Hobbit is like the preamble to the Lord of the Rings, so why the fuck not? I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of honor. Your dark fire will not avail you here, flame of Uldun. Go back to the shadow. Just watched that, sorry. Such an epic scene. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so it's all I got tingles watching it again. Yeah, Titanic, yeah, another good example of a long movie that I think it would work as that as well. You're right. And it's not a bad movie either, Zach. I'm not a huge defender of Titanic. Like, I'm not saying it's the best movie ever made, but I think people poop on that movie a lot more than it deserves. This enemy is beyond any of you. A Balrog, a demon of the ancient world. This enemy is beyond any of you. Run. You shall not pass. Servant of the secret fire. Wielder of the flame of Anno. You shall not pass! Your dark fire will not avail you here, flame of Uldun. Am I planning on watching the Amazon series? No. Is that what he calls his staff? I don't know. I actually don't know if he's referring to his staff. I don't know. I believe he might be. Or it might be another name for Glamdring, which is his sword, which he gets in The Hobbit. So I can't remember. I mean, you want to know who knows a lot about Lord of the Rings lore is fucking Marshall. I don't know if he's still lurking, but Marshall might have an answer for that shit. Marshall's up to speed, even more than me, on Lore of the Rings. Yeah, I can do a pretty good Gollum. You see what I did? Yep. Did you watch the TED Talk? Yes, I did. It was awesome. It's fucking great to hear him again, and it's actually a really great talk. It's like a compact version of what he spent his time training his students in terms of the philosophical angles of comedy. So that was cool. But I love Gandalf's fucking character arc in The Lord of the Rings, though. He goes from being this mysterious, almost self-serving and untrustable figure in The Hobbit, or at least for most of it, very mysterious, to, in The Lord of the Rings, kind of being seen as kind of like a bumbling wizard past his prime. Like, there's a lot of that in it. Like, he's very, gregarious and old, and he, goes and sets off fireworks for little hobbits and shit. And we get this idea that Gandalf is, like, in his silver years or whatever, And I love how that changes. You know what I mean? I love him being reborn in his power due to having to fight the Balrog and coming back as Gandalf the White. Well, yeah, I don't remember what race he is, but he's not a human. So, more or less timeless, yes. Oh, I don't need this anymore. Weed Man has come and gone. I was wondering why my beard felt so thick. And then I was like, oh, because I still have my fucking gator mask on underneath it. Okay, that's better. Wow. That feels like my beard. John Huston, yeah, I know. I like that Hobbit cartoon. I liked it when I was a kid. Gandalf is the same species as Sauron, some divine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They can appear as different things, basically. Like, I know that Sauron chooses to appear in The Hobbit as an elf necromancer. So he's referred to as the necromancer of Mirkwood in The Hobbit. And then that line is not really even connected other than by lore lines outside of the books. Dude, I've been waiting my whole life to get the right dog to name Gandalf. Dinor definitely wasn't it, or I would have overridden Dinor. You gotta get like like a long, silky-haired white dog if you want to have a Gandalf, or like a poodle. There's a certain type of dog, and I don't know if I'll ever have one, but if I ever end up with an animal worthy of the name Gandalf, you can bet your fucking ass I'm naming one. See, I had a Schnauzer, but our Schnauzer was a little girl. Not that Gandalf couldn't be a little girl, but you know what I mean? She was Boogie. I actually named her Boognish after the kind of mischievous god that the band Ween worships. So her name was Boognish. We called her Boogie for short. And so we didn't have to explain Boognish to people. Yeah, I have her old collar in there. I have a statue of Boogie that I had made of her that's roughly the size that she was, give or take. And I have her collar around it. And on her collar is Boognish. And then in parentheses, Boogie. Pretty cute. I always wonder if people think that's creepy, but I don't have enough people over, and not enough people ask me about it to make any hay about it. But like, I've always wondered if people like look at that and go like, "Oh," but fuck them. Yeah, it's not Boogie's body. It's just a statue made in her likeness. I think I've showed it to you guys before. I can show it to you guys if you want. You want me to go grab it real quick? You guys interested in seeing it? You can tell me if it's creepy or not. Yay, nay? Yeah, there she is. Gotta turn her tag around so you guys can't see the old phone number on it. Or I guess I'll have to cover it. But there's the tag that says Boognish. Boogie. They spelled boogie wrong. They didn't put the IE at the end, but that's okay. That's her original tag, and then let me flip this around a little bit, show you guys. So there she is. That is how she looked a lot, by the way. This was her trademark. She would sit with her tongue out all the time, like. So, anyway. That's her spiked collar. She was a punk princess, dude. Boogie was pretty awesome. She was a white mini schnauzer. You vote creepy? Is what it is, bro. Hey, man, it's gonna hit people different. Like, it's not made of her ashes or anything. Her body isn't in there. It's just a little statue of her. And it fits her collar, fits just like it did on her. She was pretty cute running around. She was a white mini schnauzer, which, by the way, don't ever buy a white mini schnauzer. They're not supposed to exist. They're mutants. I didn't know this at the time. They're very fucking cute, but they're mutants. They're not supposed to exist. But anyway, she was a white mini schnauzer, and we put this black leather collar on her with spikes, and she loved it. Like it had just fit her personality so well because she was such a little asshole to everybody but me. Bad breeding habits, yes. No, I'm not trying to shame mutants, and I'm not trying to tell you that but I'm just saying that, like, I lost Boogie when she was 5 years old due to the fact that she had so many consequences of inbreeding. I almost lost her as a puppy because she had went into anaphylactic shock when she got her first puppy shots. It happens to something like 0.2% of dogs. So I don't know if I told you guys that story. That's a crazy story, man. My ex-wife and I, and we weren't married at the time that we got Boogie. We were just living together. But we got Boogie from a breeder, and we were in our 20s. I didn't know any fucking better. We decided that because I have allergies and shit, and so did she, that we had to get a hypoallergenic dog, or as hypoallergenic a dog as we could get. So a dog that doesn't throw off a lot of dander and a lot of hair. And those are like poodles, schnauzers, Shih Tzus. There's a number of other dogs that fall into that category, and so we decided to try and find a schnauzer. We found a breeder that was in the area that was offering puppies. We went down and got Boogie, and so she was little, and we took her in to get her first shots, and I held her everywhere she went. She was tiny. I mean, mini schnauzer puppies are like little teddy bears. I mean, you can see how big Boogie is here. This statue, like I said, is to scale. So this is as large as Boogie ever got. So she was at that point just like a little potato. And we take her into this Banfield vet to get her shots. And I still remember the doctor's name. I'll never forget him, actually, because he fucking saved her life. He was an Indian guy named Dr. Sahota. He had a very thick accent, but he spoke very clear English, but he just had a very thick Indian accent. And so he came in and told us, looked at her and told us she looked okay, and he gave her her shot, and then he said, everything seems fine, and he went on to go do his business elsewhere, and we were in. I took Boogie out. We were in line to pay for the shots at the front desk of this Banfield clinic, and all of a sudden Boogie starts whimpering. She starts going, but like puppy whimpering. And I'm like, it's okay, it's all right, it's okay. And I thought maybe she was scared of one of the bigger dogs that was in there or something. But she started to shiver. And I was like, okay, it's all right, it's all right. And then all of a sudden, that shiver turned into a seizure. Right there in my hands. She was like went stiff as a fucking board and shit all over me. And I was like, oh my God. And the nurse saw what was happening and came and snatched her from me and ran in the back with her. And I'm sitting there and I'm like covered in puppy shit. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And so I'm like, of course, my ex-wife goes to fucking pieces. And I'm trying to like keep my head together and shit. And I went kind of like down the hall where I wasn't supposed to go and looked into this room, and they had like a little OR back there, like a little emergency type room. And when I looked through, they had a slit in it like this, just so you could see what was going on, and you weren't even supposed to be back there. But I think they let me go back there, and I peeked through that slit, and I could see her tiny little puppy body laying on a table, and the doctor was using one finger to do chest compressions on her. And I was like, the fucking dog died? What happened? And so I went back to, comfort my ex, and, was sitting there. They gave us one of the little exam rooms to sit in. Well, she was tiny. So you can't you know what I mean? She was this, like I said, she was a potato. So he was using like maybe one or two fingers to and she had like a tiny little mask on and was just laying there all stiff. And I was like, she's fucking dead. And so they gave us some little exam room to go in. And my ex was a mess. And so I was trying to keep it together and shit, and was just like, what the fuck? And I just thought they gave us this exam room because they're going to come in and tell us she died. And Dr. Sahota came in at one point, and I was like, here it comes. And he goes, I'll never forget it, dude. He was like, your sweet little baby is very lucky. And I was like, really? He said, yeah. If you had gotten to the parking lot with her, she would have died. And then he sat down and he explained to us that a very, very tiny percentage of dogs get major anaphylaxis from vaccines. And he basically said, you won the lottery. So anyway, they brought her back to life, basically. They resuscitated her. She died right there on the table. And he resuscitated her. And they immediately gave her a dose of whatever it is, like Benadryl or whatever, to flush the anaphylaxis. Got her breathing again. Did like manual fucking squeeze breathing with her. That whole shit. He told us the whole fucking thing. And I was sitting there. It's like a medical procedure on a trauma patient, but on a little potato. And she lived. He said, usually when this happens, the little dogs, they do not make it. Your little dog, she's a strong little, he used to love her, sweet, strong little baby. And that's what he called her, because obviously that's the only vet we would take her to after this. And so he'd say, oh, your sweet, strong little baby, still doing good. He'd check her out and everything. He never forgot that dog, I don't think. I don't think anything like that had happened to him as a vet. In fact, he told us as such. He said, I've never successfully resuscitated. He said, and I was like, whoa. Slowly but surely, I am working on Beware the Giant Worm, yes. But anyway, yeah, she was there overnight. They kept her, I think, maybe even 2 days for observation over there. Huge vet bill, but whatever. What are you going to do? A lot of it was defrayed because, it happened on their premises. So we actually didn't have to pay as much as we would have had we just brought her in with it. But anyway, none of that's really material. We took her home, and after that incident, she literally would not leave my fucking side. She was scared shitless of the stairs. She didn't want to be taken anywhere. She wanted to sit in the living room. we lived in a condo that had an upstairs and a downstairs, and I would try and take her up the stairs with me to the bedroom so that we could lay her in bed and we could lay there with her or whatever, and she would go, she'd freak out about the stairs. So when she's still a baby, and she went through all that shit. And so it was like, all right. So I just basically moved downstairs for like 2 weeks. I made a bed down there, put blankets on the couch and put a pillow on the couch and moved, some stuff down there so that because she would not sleep unless it was right next to me or on me. Oh, thanks for the Australian dollars. I appreciate it. And that's a nice cricket you got there. I see cricket. But yeah, after about 2 weeks, she came out of her shell a little bit, but that bond that happened after this incident never went away. If I was not in the fucking room, she was a mad person. So she was a dog that had horrible separation anxiety that we had to deal with. She eventually, as she got older, as she got like 2 and 3, she mellowed way the fuck out, but then she started to get sick with what eventually led to kidney failure. She started to get these really horrible bouts of, fuck. I can't even remember what they called it. Like she would just like not want to eat, not want to drink. She had diarrhea, and it was all something to do with her pancreas, I think. Pancreatitis. That's what it was. And so they would give her these huge doses for her of ibuprofen to reduce the inflammation in her pancreas. And she would go back to normal while she was on the ibuprofen and start eating again and start pooping normal again and sleeping again. But once the ibuprofen dose ran out, it would be about 2 weeks and she'd have pancreatitis again. And so the treatment plan was to give her, like, to wait for that to happen and then to give her these big doses of anti-inflammatory. Well, because the pancreas is so close to the kidneys and the liver, and because ibuprofen and large doses of those types of anti-inflammatories are, very fucking damaging to the liver if taken in large doses over a long time. She basically just had multiple organ failure one day. Like one day, she was sick, and I slept on the couch with her like she was a puppy that night, because when she got sick, that's what she wanted. And the next morning I woke up and found her in horrible shape. She was still laying next to me, but she was just whimpering and wheezing and breathing weird, and that was that. I don't want to go through the whole fucking story, but she died at 5 years old. And that sucks. So the moral of the story is be careful, don't go to breeders, and learn a little bit about the breed of dog that you're going to get if you are going to get a select breed. Because had I read up enough about schnauzers, I would have known that white mini schnauzers are prone to all of the things that Boogie had. Like when a white mini schnauzer is born, they're not even AKC certified no matter what their breeding is, because the AKC considers them to be an anomaly. So they're very cute, but word to the wise, don't get them. Mutts, as I understand, are some of the healthiest dogs in the world. Because a lot of dogs that have the very extreme breeding type stuff done to them, like pugs, for example, have that super short face, and they have all of these horrible respiratory problems as a result of that. My schnoodle, who's around 5, has diabetes and pancreatitis. I hope he lives at least a couple more years, but I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't mean to make you sad about that, but yeah, no. As far as I understand, mutts, because they don't have all of those extreme breeding expressions that can cause problems, are way healthier than a lot of dog breed. Now that also comes down to inbreeding too. But there are some dog breeds that, no matter how well bred they are, suffer from some of the same stuff. Like English bulldogs have that same kind of face. They're very cute, but they have horrible respiratory problems, horrible sinus infections, and breathing difficulties as they get older. I mean, yeah, I know, Ingrid. I know that is. I love blazing it to your monologue streams. Cool. Well, this is a good place to do it. This is the place. And this is the time. Love DFF, love animals, buy your loved ones a treat. Oh, thank you, Doodly. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, Dad brought out Boogie.
Yeah, I wanted to show them Boogie. I had to cover up the phone number.
Yeah. Donor probably thought it was a little dog the first
He was like, what?
glance.
What's that? Nope, it's just Boogie. We thought about when I got Dinor, there was a moment where I thought, because that collar would fit Dinor perfectly. And once he grew up, there was a moment where I thought about, like, maybe I'll give Dinor Boogie's old collar and we'll put his tags on it and I'll just keep Boogie's tag or whatever. But I don't know. But at that point, I really hadn't decided to make the statue like a memory of Boogie. It was just something that came to me in the divorce. And I had been using it because her collar also came to me in the divorce. That was one of the few things that I got, and I'd been using it just to store the collar so I didn't lose it, because it fits perfectly around the statue's neck, because like I said, the statue is to scale. So I'd been using it like that, and I was like, you know what, no, I'm gonna keep it there. Nah, I was right. You know what I mean? Dinor doesn't need a spiked collar. He's not a spiked collar boy. I was right. Dad made the right call on that one. He called your personality, and it's not a spiked collar personality.
So, well, now he's got like a marbled collar. It's kind of the same color he is.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky collar.
He's had pink collars. Dinor loves pink. Mm-hmm. Or actually, we love pink because he looks really cute in it. Mm-hmm. So Dinor's had pink collars before. He's got a pretty pink sweater that he wears when it gets cold. Dinor rocks the pink.
He's got that pink laser vest.
Pink lasers, yeah. He's too Chad for that shit. Oh, man. I don't understand how people don't treat pets as family. When my wife was pregnant, people convinced that we would get rid of our dogs and cats when the baby came. They aren't disposable. Some people do that. Some people get pets and then they have their first kid and they realize that the pet and the kid are a combined force of responsibility, and they're like, well, bye, dog. And it's like, I don't fucking understand that shit for nada. Like,
my mom ended up doing that, getting rid of her cats after she had my sister.
I just don't understand it.
She found homes for them.
I mean, if you rehome them, that's another fucking thing. But some people just take them to the pound.
Yeah.
So many pound dogs are just surrenders. They're just like, all right, well, we don't want to deal with this dog no more, so here you go.
My mom made up for it by getting someone else's surrender later.
Rehoming is better. Like, if you got a pet and some reason you can't take care of the pet anymore, that's a responsible fucking thing to do, is rehome the fucking pet. So I'm fine with that. You get a baby or you got allergies or some shit and you got to get rid of your pet, you rehome it. You don't just fucking dump it at the county lockup or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some places, like adoption agencies that have like a return within X or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the dogs that I had back before the divorce both came from ARF, and ARF has that policy. If you have an ARF dog, it doesn't matter if it's fucking 10, 15 years later, they will take it back. Their whole philosophy is never take this dog to the pound and never give it to anybody else. If you cannot take care of this dog, we do not judge you. These are our dogs for life. So it ever needs a place to stay, or you cannot take care of it, or you decide you don't want it, please do not take this dog to the pound. Do not give it to somebody else. Bring it here. We will always take them. So that's a good place to adopt from, if you're not sure if you can handle the responsibility of a pet, because they're really, like, especially at a place like ARF, there is no guilt in taking an animal back to ARF. All you have to do is walk the grounds of that place to know it. Good that there's a resource like that. Yeah, getting rescues is the only way. Yep, that's what ARF is. ARF is 100% animals that have been pulled from kill shelters. It's a specialty no-kill shelter. They only take the amount of animals that they can house on the property, but they turn a lot of animals out the door. But they have a vetting process. They do a background check on you before they'll give you a dog, because they want to make sure you don't have animal abuse charges on you. So they don't give their dogs to people that are abusers. They don't give their dogs to people that have had animal-related fucking misdemeanors or felonies or whatever. You got anything like that on your fucking record?
They do like income and housing checks, like make sure.
I mean, background checks include your income, so they want to make sure you're not living fucking hand to mouth. So yeah, you willingly give them your fucking shit, and they run a background check on you, and you pass that, you get a dog. Got an Australian cattle dog puppy on a whim. He was too much for me to handle. He didn't get along with my other dog. My mom helped me rehome him to a nice couple. Yeah. Yep, that actually happened to me. In between Boogie and the two dogs that we eventually adopted from ARF, me and my ex. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't even really me. My ex just kind of called me one day and was like, I found a dog and I want to get him. And I was like, all right. I felt bad because it had been like over a year since Boogie had died. And so she brings home this dog named Dude, which I immediately thought, like, all right, this is going to be a cool dog. And Dude was so horribly maladapted for the type of life that we had in our backyard. We had a backyard, but most of it was pool. So he had a very small strip of yard to run around on, and he was a bigger dog, not huge, but I'd say like Salvador-sized dog. And kind of like a lab mix mutt type of dog, and he was just not right for us. And so we rehomed him. But we didn't have the option to rehome him because she adopted him directly from the ASPCA. We didn't have the option to take him back to the ASPCA and know for sure that he wasn't going to go in the oven somewhere. So we did the work of fucking finding a family that would take him. So I don't know. For me, like, when it comes to dogs, and I don't know if this is just like a philosophy or what, but since I was a kid, I haven't had a big dog. I have smaller dogs. And I think that I work better with smaller dogs. Most, not all, most smaller dogs are lower energy, require less fucking constant attention and shit. they're closer to cats, you know what I mean, in terms of that type of stuff. Now, Dinor still needs to run around, but he's got a nice big yard for that shit. And we play fetch and whatnot. But if I had a big ass dog, you got to take them motherfuckers on walks every day, and you got to fucking like, you know what I mean? I just think that it doesn't really fit my lifestyle very well, and so I tend towards smaller dogs. Now, if I end up settling down on a piece of land like this, and in the future, you know, I might get a bigger dog, because you wouldn't have to walk a dog if it lived on this big a property. It could run all fucking day long and do its thing back here. So I might consider getting a larger dog at that point, but
That's another dog. You gotta train not to chase things.
well, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. If we were to buy this property, we'd put that privacy fence up around this place, and
nothing to chase.
there would eventually be not. Now we'd probably wait till these foxies left, and then put that fucking fence up, and there's not going to be anything coming and going out of the backyard. And that's really, you got to have that if you're going to have goats and cappies. Don't tell anybody. Unless you have a lot of land for them to run around on, which is my situation, yeah. We're on 1.25 acres here, which is more than enough land for, you know, like a Salvador-sized dog or whatever to fucking run his head off all goddamn day. He could do laps around this house. Especially if we set it up the way that I would do it, which is connect both of these, because like our side yard and our backyard are just divided right here by our fucking driveway, and it's like, put a fucking electronic gate across the driveway that uses a clicker just like the garage door, and make this all one big fucking yard.
I guess it kind of is if you want to go the long way around to the front.
It is, but it's like a weird U around the house, and it's like there's no connect. Well, there is a walk pass through connection, and it's just like, make this all one private yard, including the driveway space. Put a little buzzer box out there, so if somebody's visiting and wants to park inside, there's room for 2 or 3 cars in our driveway, but there'll be room for way more cars. If we gated it, they could come park out here. See what I mean? It's just like, this house is so well situated. Like, to be honest with you, if we bought this house, fixed it up, we could have our wedding ceremony here.
Yeah.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy, but I wouldn't do it unless we owned the house and fixed it up for that. And that would probably be longer than I want to wait for us to have a wedding ceremony. So, but I'm just saying, like, that type of event would be totally possible here. It's just the fucking bad design of this gate. It's a shit gate, number one, and has holes in it in multiple places, which allows wildlife to come and go as they please, which is fine. But if we had chickens, those foxes would not be cool to have back here. You know, a fox in the hen house, not a good idea. So if we wanted to have chickens, we'd have to have a much more complete fenced gate. Plus, I would want that for privacy's sake anyway. Like, if I had a piece of land like this, I want to fucking... Nobody gets to see in here unless they know me. Oh my God, Ingrid, be careful with that pot-bellied pig shit. Be careful. A lot of people buy pot-bellied pigs because there's functionally no way to tell the difference between a pot-bellied piglet and a real piglet. And so people buy a piglet thinking it's a pot-bellied pig, and then pretty soon they got a 400-pound porker in their house. And they're calling farms. Now, I love pot-bellied pigs, but good luck, vetting and finding one.
Yeah. I'd say if you can find an adult one, that might be the way to go.
If you get one, get it from a licensed breeder. Like, I'm sure there are places that fucking are breeders that have, Yelp scores and shit.
Yeah.
Find something where there's at least some insinuation that these people aren't just selling pigs. But so many people buy pot-bellied pigs that end up being fucking giant 300-pound monsters. Pigs are great animals, but yeah.
Dude, they can be up to 750 pounds.
Yes.
Ginormous.
Fully grown, like adult female pigs can be huge. And I think the males can be even bigger. So it's just like, depending on the breed and the type of pig you're talking about. Like, there's some wild pigs and boars, fucking huge. They're like the size of fucking Ujiro running around out there. A pig, or bigger. It's like a bear, but a pig. We were talking about it earlier today on the stream I did this morning about my iguana, so I would recommend you go back and look at that. It'll be time-stamped in a day or two, so you can check that out. I don't want to bring it up again, but yes. The short answer is yes, I've had an exotic pet. They eat everything, too, and they get wild like that. Oh, dude, pigs are actually really cool animals in nature because they are part of the recycling process of the forest that they live in, because pigs will eat motherfucking anything that they can put in their mouths and chew and swallow. Like, if it's got nutritional value at all, a pig will fucking eat it. And pigs will eat, like, pigs clean up whole carcasses. It's like, so what'll happen is, in the wild a lot, boars are usually foraging animals. They don't hunt. They're not predatory. In fact, they're prey animals, but they're foraging animals. So what'll happen is a boar will come upon like a coyote kill that's been stripped down, and all that's left is fucking the tail with hair on it, and all the fucking meat has been taken off the bones. There's just some fur and bone and brains and eyeballs and shit, right? And the boar will eat that whole fucking thing, bones and all. Suck all the brains out of the head and eat those first, and then eat the skull. The only thing that fucking pigs don't eat is teeth.
I think hair.
Well, they eat it, but it comes back out the other end of them. It doesn't hurt them. They eat it, but it just doesn't digest in their gut. Yeah. But everything else, bye-bye. That's, it's the truth. Pigs are a good way to get rid of a corpse.
That's why they're in that Deadwood show.
That's why they're in Deadwood, and they're in that movie Snatch, remember?
Are they in Hannibal?
Hannibal, yep. In Hannibal, that's the way that Mason Verger wants to kill Hannibal. Yeah. He wants him to be captured and then taken out in the middle of nowhere, and he has these specially trained pigs that, like, he puts meat all over a dummy, and then plays the sounds of humans screaming, and starves them for 2 weeks, and then lets them eat while that's going on to get them used to just, like, eating a live human. Yeah. Big old giant fucking boars. Yeah, no, those animals, like, pigs are really cool, though. Like, that, I mean, outside of the nefarious ways that you can use pigs, in the wild, pigs are really integral animals because they take a lot of this matter and break it down in their gut and turn it into direct fertilizer for the trees and plants around them. So they're part of nature's, like, return to the soil cycle. And, all scavenging animals are, really. You want to hear them, Mr. Verger? Oh, yes. That sounds swell. What'd you say, about 400 pounds? 450. Excellent. I've had a bunch of Stellar Jays hanging out, and my goodness, they're beautiful. Also had a squirrel enter my window looking for nuts, y'all. Did you tell him to look at these nuts? Hey, squirrel, you looking for nuts? What about these nuts? Oh, no. That's cute. There's not a lot of squirrels around here, but the one that we've seen is fucking huge.
If he's still around.
Yeah, Dinor
went. Eat him.
That coyote might have caught that motherfucker. I don't know what happened, man. The circle of life happened is what happened. But we saw a squirrel that was damn near fucking, like, probably like three quarters the size of Dinor. Fucking big old mountain red squirrel. I don't usually see those squirrels unless we're up in the foothills or way up in the Sierras. So he must have been foraging a long way from home because he was a fucking stonking squirrel. And Dinor chased him out of the yard and then had a showdown with a coyote from across the street. Man, that was weird. Being that close to a big bull coyote like that was weird because usually they're so aversive of people. Mm-hmm. And he sat right up on that fucking wall and looked at me like a gargoyle. They're like foxes in that they have this like feline quality to them that dogs don't have. There's a very clear difference, right? Like you look at a fox and actually look at how it plays, and you're like, man, that's more like a fucking kitten. Like the way that little fox was trying to climb the tree, and it's like, man, that's more like a fucking kitten than a dog. And that coyote was huge. He was a big giant bull coyote, and he fucking saw me. He was standing in the middle of the road. He saw me, turned around and trotted away and jumped like super fucking nimbly up onto this wall that's probably about that wide, and turned his whole body around on it and sat down and folded his tail over his lap and looked at me. And I fucking stood there and looked at him. That was that was like, oh, all right, Dinor, come on, let's just go. And when I said that, he fucking went off and Dinor went off. That coyote looked like it could snatch up a toddler. Like, I'm not trying to overstate the size of it, but it was a big, giant male coyote. And it was weird looking at him. The way he moved and used the way that tail was a little prehensile. It was like, what? Because dogs have this like, right? Coyote tails are like, I was like, whoa. Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. And that's I went and looked into it. He was making himself look big. So that's what a coyote does when he feels like he's being threatened. Is they will sit like that and wrap their tail around their legs to make them look bigger than they really are. So maybe that's why I think he was so big. But I remember being struck by how I thought he was like a husky. My first thought was, oh, there's a husky loose in the fucking neighborhood. And then I was like, that ain't a fucking husky. That's holy shit. And that's about how much time I had before he did that jump up on the goddamn wall. And he wasn't like growling at me or anything, but he just hopped on the wall and wrapped his tail around him, and it made him look like fucking huge, and he was just looming there like a gargoyle. I was like, whoa. All right, buddy. Go on about whatever. Go find that squirrel. I'm sure you'll get him. I've told a lot of my animal encounter stories. I mean, that's one of them. We have foxes that live in our backyard now, and that's another. I was on the Bob Jones Trail one time with Boogie and ran into a mother mountain lion with a cub or two cubs. And that would have been deadly. She was 200 or 300 yards. Never seen a wolf in the wild, I don't think. Seen bears. I've been to the Yosemite Valley, and there are places where you drive up past to get to your campground or get to a certain spot in the Yosemite Valley where bears will just walk right up to your fucking car because people are stupid. So that's human beings' fault, not the bears' fault. But I've seen a lot of wild bears because dumbass people will see them and throw food out to them. And they think, oh, we're helping the bear. And it's like, no, what you're doing is you're hurting the bear. You're making the bear dependent on a seasonal food supply that won't be there in a couple of months when they shut this park down. And then the bears don't know where to hunt or haven't done the right type of hunting or eaten enough.
Or just do dangerous things like go out in the road with someone that's not going to stop and feed them.
Yep. They go, oh, this road doesn't have food on it. Let me go to this highway. And then they get splattered on it. or they end up fucking going into areas where they end up having to be, choppered back. It's just fucked up. Like, don't feed the bears, right? There's signs all if you've ever been to Yosemite. Don't feed the bears. Don't feed the bears. Bears are dangerous animals. Don't get out if you see a bear. Don't feed them. Just keep driving. Blah 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 blah. Like, and people just are too stupid to follow that. They're like, well, don't feed the bears except for me. Here's some chicken. Throw some of their picnic food to the bear, and then they've just ensured that that fucking bear is going to keep coming to that spot instead of ranging like bears are supposed to do in the Sierra Nevadas. Now you got a bear that doesn't fucking move and doesn't move through their traditional fucking hunting grounds and find new fucking areas to spread into. Now you've got a bear that sits by the road. I don't know about dumb, but they're dangerous. Bears are not as dumb as you think, Ingrid. Bears are pretty wildly fucking animals. They're like giant raccoons. They'll get into anything. A bear will get into anything if it smells food, and they have an intensely good sense of smell. They can smell prey from miles around them. Their olfactory nerves are akin to dogs, or maybe even better. So they are able to smell even the insinuation of food. So you'll find that a lot of times when people are staying in areas where there are wild black bears or grizzlies, they will put all of their food in this giant tarp and then run it up a tree in such a way that it's hanging in a way that even if the bear climbed the fucking tree, there's no way it could get it. It's hanging out over space, basically. So there's that. Don't feed the fucking bears. And in general, don't feed the wildlife. There are certain wildlife that doesn't really apply to. If you live in a big city and you want to throw some bird seed at a pigeon, you're not helping or hurting the goddamn fucking pigeons with that shit. Those pigeons are going to goddamn fucking be there whether you throw bird seed at them or not. Same thing goes for like seagulls. If you're at the beach or something, they hang there. Now, there are certain things you shouldn't feed to a fucking seagull, obviously. But seagulls are pretty garbage gut animals. They'll eat any kind of fucking meat or whatever that, throw them some bird seed, they'll eat it. They don't give a shit. But mammals, yeah. Wild mammals, like, don't put food out for foxes.
I mean, it's kind of an asshole move to feed a seagull, too. Then they just start harassing everyone else.
That's true. I guess that's true.
They had that sign when we went to Pismo to not feed the seagulls.
And that idiot that was sitting right next to us was doing it.
Yeah.
Did you see him?
Yep.
Him and his dumbass wife. Sitting there fucking holding their hands out trying to get the seagull to, like, take the food right out of their hands. And so this whole flock of goddamn fucking seagulls. I wanted to unleash Dinor on them. Like, go chase them off, Dinor. Fuck these people. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, if you're living in a place forever and you start feeding a fucking animal that's wild, so you just said that you leave food out for feral cats and raccoons and shit, but you were only continuing it because you live in the same house that your parents did and they started it or whatever. If you continue it, when you die or sell that place or move, if the person that comes after you goes like, I don't want all these fucking cats and raccoons around, and stops doing it, then you're going to have like a whole generation of cats and raccoons that are going to suffer for that, because they're going to think that they're living near a food source and they're not. It's going to be no food there. And, like generationally, like raccoons, if they find a steady food source, they'll come back and back again. There are people who have pet raccoons because of that. So you got to be careful with feeding any kind of wildlife. You can put out bird feeders, you know what I mean? But only if you're in an area that doesn't have like tons and tons of pigeons, unless you want pigeon shit all over your shit, you know what I mean? But like in this area, if we put on a hummingbird feeder or a bird seed thing, we'd get a lot of robins and scrub jays and...
But they're already all here.
They're already here.
They obviously have enough shit to live in here.
Yeah.
Our bush.
The only thing I think I'd put up out here is a a couple of little hummingbird feeders in various spots because I've seen hummingbirds out here, but they'll hang around if you put a feeder out. So I like having hummingbirds around. But you got to be cool to them because they may nest in your house, you know, like they may nest on your. My mom's got like a. This is the cutest story ever. You guys want to hear the fucking cutest goddamn story you've ever heard? Yay or nay? Because if you're done with all of this fucking cute animal talk, we can move on. But I'm telling you, I have the cutest fucking story that you will ever fucking hear. It's like a Disney movie. All right. So my mom is like me, loves every creature except for cockroaches, basically, and leeches and weird parasitic shit. You know, like loves every animal that's in the wild, loves nature.
Except monkeys, but that's another
Well,
story.
monkeys are a different story, and we can get into that. She's has a monkey phobia, but you know she loves creatures, and so she's out. She sees one day she's got this cable wire that's runs into the house from the cable company, and it kind of droops a little bit. And on that drooping part of the wire, she sees something sitting up there. And at first, she said she thought it was a wasp nest. And she got closer, and out popped two little hummingbird heads. Or no, one hummingbird head, because it was the mama hummingbird still building the nest. And she was like, "Oh, it's a hummingbird nest. It's tiny." I got to tell you, dude, it's like a thimble. Maybe a little larger than a thimble. It's this tiny little structure, right? And so she takes these pictures of it and shows it to me, and I'm like, "Oh, cute." Anyway, they go out of town for a couple of days and come back, and there was like a windstorm where they lived. And they came back, and they found that nest was still up, but it had broken a little bit and tipped. And so the babies were still off in it, but they were barely able to be in it anymore. It was breaking, and they weren't ready to leave the nest yet. And so my stepdad took some wire and very carefully went up there and hooked it up to where it held that nest back up. And she kept using it, and he left it there because he read that hummingbirds will use the same nest year to year, but Mama Hummingbird knew better, and she built a nest in their backyard this year, and she sent me pictures of that. So she's got a little hummingbird that nests on her property, and they take care of her, and it's the cutest, sweetest thing. She sent me pictures of the babies. They're like little tiny, they're that big, but they're little birds. They'll like look up out of the thing.
Or like little cashews or something.
Yeah, even smaller, like little peanuts. Peanut-sized bird that's like, whoop, 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 whoop. And then they duck back in the fucking thing. They live in the nest until they're both, like, I guess they have two chicks. They will sit in the nest until they're both so big that they almost don't fit in it. And then once that happens and you start seeing them all the time in it, that's, that they're a few days from going off on their own. Pretty crazy shit. Yeah, it's the cutest shit, right? That's got to be the cutest shit. We have tons of birds around my house. Central Illinois doesn't have a lot of trees. My yard is chock full of trees my family planted, and it's like an aviary. That's really cool. Yeah, that's something that I would like to have. I love this piece of land for that, is that it's got a lot of really old growth trees on it that, like, you can't buy that shit. I mean, you can, but tree transplants are fucking expensive, and they're not guaranteed to take. So it's like, if you want a big old growth tree, you can pay fucking tens of thousands of dollars for one, or you can buy a piece of property that's already got goddamn trees on it.
Do you trust most of these trees?
What?
Do you trust most of these trees?
Yeah. I mean, trust them as far as like climbing them and shit? No.
I mean, like leaving them up, or do you think any of them are like storm
The one that's on this side of the house, I
Yeah.
would have a tree expert come out and look at and possibly have removed because it has grown at an angle that is so weird. And it dropped that huge branch. Remember?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a quarter of the tree split off. It was already there when we got here. Just so that one over there is these that are relatively straight. I wouldn't worry about. I'd maybe have somebody come out and look at them and prune them. Maybe cut them back in a certain way.
What?
But I don't know what the proper care of fucking eucalyptus trees are. It's probably just to let them grow.
What is it, Dino?
What do you want? Where's your bow?
Where's your bow?
Or do you want to go inside? You want your bow? All right, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys.